Yepes-Narváez. Vanessa is a marine environmental researcher working here at Invermar. Her work focuses on the use of biomolecular tools for understanding biodiversity in a changing world. She works using eDNA for the identification of key fauna in the protection of marine protected areas. To you, Vanessa.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to speak in English for those English speakers, plus I feel more confident. So as they say, I'm Vanessa. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm going to talk about the advances of biomolecular data produced in Colombia using OBIS and GBIF tools. So as most of you know, every life form in the ocean, from viruses to whales, contains and leaves behind a biomolecular footprint. This footprint could be DNA, RNA, or even proteins, which could be extracted from each individual specimen or their derivative biological matter, or you could also detect it from theirs being dissolved in the seawater or in the sediments. That extraction could inform us about their extent of occurrence and their biology. eDNA, for example, is this more than a method, is a tool that allows researchers to explore a bit deeper on the biodiversity presence data in a set ecosystems. It is actually a non-invasive strategy that allows us to give an extended record and also reduces the amount of sampling effort that is needed, especially on hard to access areas. I am also part of the Ocean Biomolecular Observing Network, and we are working together to uniting countries to develop by the end of the decade a global system that will allow us to understand in a better way how our oceans work together. And our mission is based on eDNA data and DNA-derived data. Next. So to give you a context about Colombia and what we've done so far, despite Colombia have a mega diversity and a vast natural resources, however, despite the fast mass production of DNA-derived data, our increasing scientific power and the new technology we've been adopting, we still haven't met the requirements that internationally have been requested for countries like us. Our molecular data of marine biodiversity at public databases does not reflect that vast biodiversity and natural resources. And I think it's mostly due to our lack of a strong computational capacity, the lack of funding, that is usually one of the biggest issues for Latin American countries, and facilities. That hasn't allowed us to publish at the free databases our genetic data, which in the past couldn't allow decision-making using that information for their analysis. Next. So to meet country-level demands, Invermar has been working on implementing DNA-derived methods from coastal to deep ocean ecosystems by implementing several methodologies, not only eDNA, but also the genomic DNA. Actually, to be able to sample in the deep ocean, as most of you know, DNA evidence sometimes rely or is usually falls into one of the very few cost-effective tools available. All of these projects have been partially financed by the National Hydrocarbon Agency, in which projects have financed most of our analysis, but also as a consequence of the installation of the first eDNA laboratory of its kind in the region, which has allowed Colombia a deeper understanding on this technology and has given us independence from the external partners in Europe or in the US. And that also has allowed us to develop new technologies such as underwater, deep sea AOVs that allow us to collect information. But also, some of this information relies deeply on databases, on genetic databases. The larger the genetic database available, the better our detections on eDNA. So since we understand that, from 2019, we started developing DNA-derived data and upload it into freely available databases such as BOLD systems. We started with 27 DNA sequences from echinoderms, and to date, we have over 1,000 DNA sequences from our marine invertebrates and fish. We currently have, within the BOLD systems database, over 33,000 published records, which, let's say, about 22,000 of them have a species name, and they all belong to over 5,800 species, from which only 10% are marine. So we still are way behind, and we're working on it. Most of this work also has been done in a cost-effective way, financing and supporting students. And without them, I think it would be harder. Some of them are in here, which I'm very thankful for. And to be able to integrate this information into public databases, CIB Colombia and CBM, which is the Marine and Biodiversity Information Systems from Colombia, have worked together in adapting marine DNA-derived occurrence data to international biodiversity platforms, including BOLD systems. To this moment, arthropods, mollusks, and chordates are the ones that lead the number of records, and so that means we have to work harder on those least represented phylums, such as sponges and cnidarians, and so on. So thanks to GBIF and OBIS' ongoing efforts to increase compatibility between standards for the general diversity and genetic data, we were able to report over 4 data sets collected on coastal and offshore expeditions in Colombia from 2022 to this point. So occurrence metadata from the Colombian, Caribbean, and Pacific were organized using the toolkit developed as part of the pilot phase of the GBIF metabarcoding data program. And then this way was our first efforts to do this. It's the first time it is available on a public database such as GBIF. Without this tool, honestly, it would have been very hard to be able to visualize DNA-derived data, especially from eDNA, in which there is a mass production of data that in the current system was not possible. INVIMAR also aligned with several genomic networks, including OBON, adopting this strategy to enhance open ocean biomolecular observations to accelerate informed decisions on biodiversity management and protection. So currently, CIB Colombia and OBIS are validating the accuracy of the provided information and are adjusting it into reliable reference database, which is our goal. And that will enhance our data reporting availability, leveraging the increasing international interest on improving omics data availability. We not only want to stop there, we've also are working on capacity development and building. So for that, INVIMAR has hosted some eDNA data visualization and publication workshops to assess the data resources needs for each institution or data provider in the country and implement a country-level strategy to be able to overcome with the mass production of DNA-derived data. As an example of how we have used biomolecular information to decision-making, in 2022, eDNA metabarcoding was used as a tool to support the creation of 2 new marine protected areas, one in the Caribbean, in the frontier with the Dominican Republic, and one in the Pacific, in the frontier with Panama and Costa Rica. These 2 very large marine areas are very far from the coast, and eDNA was one of the very few tools we used to describe a large occurrence data from biodiversity. That allowed the country to meet the ocean decade challenges 8 years before the deadline, and also gave us the possibility to set an example to the rest of the region, and now we are creating capacity with them and also helping them to meet their ocean decade challenges. Thanks. So in our conclusion, we are positive that reporting DNA-derived occurrence will provide insights of the current state of our extant biodiversity and the distribution of undescribed and new species, which overall will become an additional and effective and efficient decision-making mechanism for biological conservation and management. Thank you so much for your time.